Well, good afternoon, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live, and hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. And we want to say hello to a few friends as you get your notifications here on Facebook. Let me see. Say hello to numero uno is, let's see here. Here they come. Andrea, Niagara Falls. How are you? And let's see, who's number 2 on the hit parade here today? We'll say hello to Nativity. How are you, Nativity? And Donna from Park Hill. Good afternoon. Nick from our staff. Rosa from Montreal. How are you? And who was that in Orangeville? Is that you, Fran? Annette, how you doing? And Georgie, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Cecilia, Shediac, Nouveau Brunswick. Bonnie, how are you, Little Britain? Wanda from Ridgeway. And Rose, how are you, from Brampton? Cheryl, West Virginia. Wendy, London, Ontario. Danny, how are you, my friend? Diane, Thunder Bay. Maria, Ottawa. Rita, and Madeleine, Kippawa, Quebec, bonjour. Rose, Peterborough. Mary, New Brunswick. And John and Linda, I think, if both of them are on. Frida and Margie, how are you? And that was you, eh, Fran? Well, as soon as I saw Orangeville, I think of you. Bonnie, Rhoda, and Kelly, London, Ontario. Maryland, PEI, and Judy, New Brunswick. Good morning. Patricia, Oakville. Okay, a couple of more. Hi, Judy, 2 Judys. Carol, Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. Joy, good afternoon. And Francis from Vaughan. And Sherry from Mississauga. Karen, Peterborough. And let me see here. Fran, it's your birthday. Well, everyone say happy birthday to Fran in Orangeville. Kathy. And let's see, it's my grandson, my youngest grandson's birthday today. He's 14. My youngest of the youngest grandsons. Vince, Tarana. Carol, Moncton, New Brunswick. Karen from Little Britain. Caroline. And April, and Carolyn, and Andrew, South Australia, Kelly, and everybody saying hi to you, Fran, and happy birthday to you, Linda, Judy. Guys, we appreciate you. If it's your birthday, yeah, just let us know, because we're happy to say happy birthday to you, Sherry. And everybody's saying happy birthday. Okay, guys, I was reading an article. I just want to talk about this for a few minutes. I don't think this will take up our whole program, but I was reading an article the other day on the blood-brain barrier. Now, anywho, okay? The blood-brain barrier is a very, very important part of your body, okay? And I remember our days in school. I don't know if they had just discovered that we actually had a blood-brain barrier in the early 70s. It might have came a little bit before that, but it was sort of very, very new, and the research on it was like earth-shattering, that you actually had a protective barrier, very invisible, really. And by the way, the microbiome is a big part of that. The microbiome, bacteria make up part of that blood-brain barrier. Anywho, what I was reading, a very interesting article, is that it takes a child, for example, to the age of 7. And some say a little longer than that, maybe even into adolescent, but the general consensus is 7 years old for the blood-brain barrier to be, working at its optimized level. Okay, so that barrier, and think of it, you don't want any toxins in your brain. At one time, they thought there's no possibility that a toxin could ever get across the blood-brain barrier, but now we know different. Because when they look, for example, at Parkinson's, MS, they have found, especially in Parkinson's, a lot of heavy metal with Parkinson's, in particular mercury in Parkinson's. Now, lead is there too, oftentimes cadmium, aluminum. Aluminum, by the way, is 7 times more toxic than mercury is. And the point that this article was making is that autism, okay, which is an epidemic today. We'd all agree on that, wouldn't we? I don't think there's any debate on whether autism is an epidemic. I always tell the story in school. I didn't even learn about autism. If you look under A in any of my medical textbooks in the 70s, no autism there. And it wasn't until about 1979 that I even heard about it, and I had no clue as to what it was. Okay? And anyways, now today the numbers are staggering. Staggering. And I'm a why guy. Like, why is that happening? Why is there so much autism today compared to before? Is it the environment? Is it food? Is it medication? A lot of questions on vaccines. Anywho, let's get back to the blood-brain barrier. So the blood-brain barrier is not perfectly formed until a child hits 7 years old. Now, that ought to alarm us in a sense that, what can affect the blood-brain barrier and what keeps toxins out of the brain? Well, the blood-brain barrier, but the point made in the article is one thing that the body has on our side, and I talk about this a fair amount, is glutathione. Glutathione is a substance that your body makes. Glutathione. It's made up of 3 amino acids, okay? And glutathione is like Velcro. That's what I named it, Velcro. And it sticks to heavy metals in your blood. You want your glutathione levels to be high all the time. It's a cancer fighter. It's a powerful antioxidant. It is a chelator of heavy metals. Okay? Glutathione. Now, your liver makes it primarily. Okay? Your liver makes it. So you want, number one, your liver to be empty. You don't want your liver to be all gummed up with fat. How do you gum up your liver with fat? Sugar. And crappy carbs, okay? Now, okay? You know what else lowers glutathione? Like if you have a fatty liver, you're going to lower your glutathione. This is why I always talk about if you're going to do a liver cleanse, you want to make sure your liver is clean. You can take all the supplements in the world to do a detox, but if your liver is not empty, that's why I love the reset. It's one of the reasons for the reset, because when you do the reset, you start emptying that liver. And it doesn't take long to empty your liver. It starts within the first 6 days. Okay? So there's that. Oh, by the way, you know what lowers glutathione? Tylenol. And so every time you give a child Tylenol, you're lowering that glutathione in that child. And that makes them much more susceptible to heavy metals. Okay? So you have glutathione, the blood-brain barrier that keeps everything out of your brain. A child's blood-brain barrier isn't formulated properly. It's not going to work at its highest function until a child is around 7 years old. And every time you use Tylenol, you're lowering a child's glutathione. Well, that's not good. Okay, that's not good. Now, the other thing they found out, 2 things, okay, again, attached to this article. 1, all autistic children, it seems there's no exceptions according to this research article, autistic children have very, very low levels of glutathione. Makes sense, doesn't it? They can't keep heavy metals out of their brain. They don't have enough glutathione, and their blood-brain barrier is not even formed properly. Okay? So, autistic children, and you know what I observed? So they say all autistic children are very, very low in glutathione. They're also low in vitamin D. Okay? They're also low in vitamin D and very low usually in B12. Nobody tells them. I'll tell you why. Parents don't know this because nobody's testing for that. And I just about guarantee you no one's testing their glutathione levels either. They just don't see the connection. And they should. Okay? So, blood-brain barrier, little teaching. Okay? It's like your gut-blood barrier. You got a barrier there between your gut and your blood. It keeps everything out of your blood that don't belong there, or at least it should. That's what leaky gut is. Leaky gut, leaky brain. And the brain gets compromised because, again, so you've got Tylenol lowering, Tylenol, you give a kid Tylenol, they got an earache, you give them Tylenol. You give Tylenol, a lot of parents give Tylenol like candy for children. You got to think twice about that. You got to think twice about that. Okay? And then you have antibiotics. Now let me read this to you. This is another study on antibiotics. I have it right here, I promise. Okay. Mayo Clinic 2020 study of 14,572 kids, okay? When a child takes antibiotics in the first 2 years of life, okay? Now, I'm almost going to say that's an exception if a child doesn't get any antibiotics in the first 2 years of their life. But parents, and I get it, grandparents, look, I understand. They got an infection, and the first thing you want to do is run to the doctor. When a kid is crying, they got earache, or they got, like tonsillitis or whatever. Come on. You think I don't understand that? Of course I do. But physicians really have been warned. You know what? Most of the time, okay, unless you see pus coming out the ear, it's viral. Don't give an antibiotic. Give them a painkiller, Tylenol. I just said don't give Tylenol. But, no, but, okay? We all feel sorry for kids. And by the way, I'm going to give you the antidote. Okay? I'm going to show you what to do. Okay? As soon as I get done here. I'm going to show you what to do if you give a kid Tylenol. Okay? But antibiotics in the first 2 years, Mayo Clinic 2020 study, 14,572 kids, disaster with antibiotics. Listen to this. 20% increase in kids that were on antibiotics in the first 2 years, 20% increase in obesity. What? Obesity. Why? Microbiome. It wipes out the microbiome. And remember, we've always talked about this, but it's always worth repeating. You've got friendly bacteria and you've got bad bacteria. And you ever read the Bible and read the story of the Israelites and the Philistines? Remember the story of David and Goliath? Okay? The two armies looked at each other for weeks on end. They were just looking. They didn't fight. They just looked at each other. Okay? Now, when your microbiome is in good shape, okay? Your ecosystem inside, you can't see it. If it's in good shape, you got your good bacteria and you got your bad bacteria, and they're just looking at each other. Well, they're not really. They're doing stuff, okay? Your good bacteria is helping with digestion, helping your immune system, helping detox. But anyway, as long as you don't have what we call a dysbiosis, where your good guys are not thriving and your bad guys are winning in bacteria count, okay? That's called dysbiosis, okay? So, when that happens and the microbiome is compromised, kids have a 20% increase in their risk of obesity. Now, these studies have been around for a while, right? I've seen these for 20 years on my radio show. I used to talk about the double-edged sword of antibiotics, okay? Now, 20% increase in obesity, 21% in learning disabilities, 21% increase if a child has been on antibiotics in their first 2 years of life. 32% increase in ADD. 90% increase in asthma. I'll tell you guys, I should do a program on this. Asthma. Maybe I've done it in the past. But when a child is given Tylenol, and which lowers the glutathione, antibiotics, which creates a dysbiosis in the body, they're very, very susceptible to asthma. You know, when I was a kid, can I be honest with you? I don't remember anybody with a puffer in my class. Now, I was a kid in the days of Noah. I know that, okay? A long time ago, in 1950s. But we didn't have, I don't remember any child having peanut allergies. I mean it. What do you mean we can't bring peanut butter to school? I'm not kidding you. I never even heard of that. I never heard of asthma, to be honest. You know, there was nobody around me that had asthma. Today, every second child's got asthma. Why? I'm telling you, it's the combination of Tylenol and antibiotics. 90% increase in asthma. Listen to this one. 289% increase in celiac. Okay? In celiac, gut, autoimmune. I have no doubt in my mind, guys, autoimmune. You know what happens in autoimmune? It's a carpet bombing. It's a carpet bombing of your microbiome and your epithelial layer of your gut, that lining, that little microscopic, you couldn't even see it, lining of the gut. Antibiotics wipe it out. And you get Tylenol, which is considered very safe. I mean, it's not that safe. Okay, so I told you the bad news. Here's the good news, okay? And I saw thousands of kids over the years. And you know what's really important is that you give your child and your grandchild probiotics. I can't emphasize it enough. Mommy, you're pregnant. Here's the go-to. You need to be on broad-spectrum probiotics for sure during pregnancy. Okay? You need to be on vitamin D. Get your vitamin D levels up. You should be on B12. If you can, get your levels checked. These are important for development of a baby's immune system. Probiotics will save your bacon. If you have to take an antibiotic, if your child is on an antibiotic, please. And you know, people said, well, Doc, can you take a 50 billion? Remember, our probiotics, every strain that we have, takes 8 weeks just to make it. It's a pain in the royal butt. But I won't compromise. We don't compromise because those strains, different strains do different things. And it's really important to have a broad spectrum of those probiotics. And not only that, because of the way our probiotic is cultured, you want to make sure your probiotic is going to get past that digestive tract. It's got to get past the stomach acid. That's so, so, so important. I tell you, most probiotics don't get past that acid. Okay? It doesn't. And they're not getting to the intended destination. Your probiotics need to get past. But I'm telling you, if you give your child a probiotic, and if you have to open up a capsule of the probiotic, put it in an applesauce, or put it in a yogurt, whatever, and they don't even know they're taking it, and they're getting a probiotic, okay? That is so, so, so important for that child, especially if they're taking Tylenol, especially if they are taking an antibiotic, and go for several months giving that child, because you're going to save their bacon. Look what it says. 2 years of life, antibiotics, 20% increase in obesity, 21% learning disability increase, 32% ADD, 90% asthma, 90% increase in asthma if they take an antibiotic in the first 2 years. And 289% of celiac. Celiac at one time was so rare. Not anymore. And all those autoimmunes now. You see it, eczema, psoriasis, Sjogren's. Okay? All of these, rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile arthritis, they're autoimmune. Even, you know what's another autoimmune? Type 1 diabetes. And I'm telling you, there's a connection there. There's a connection there to their childhood. And two things that are so common are antibiotics and Tylenol. Make sure you protect your children from the side effects of that. Okay? Anyway, I just thought I'd bring that to you because it's kind of interesting on the blood-brain barrier. And you get leaky gut, you get leaky brain. There's a major connection there between the two. Okay, guys. I had to breathe. Okay. Guys, we love you dearly. Send your questions in for Q&A Fridays, okay? info@martinclinic.com. And we appreciate you guys coming on with us. And you can always watch it again, right? And you can share this, by the way, on Facebook. And you can tell folks to download the Doctor is in their podcast on their favorite smart device, okay? We'll talk to you soon.